Welcome back to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois.
Welcome back. We are excited to dive into another powerful episode. As you know, Maylin and I always get so excited to find amazing experts in our community to be able to provide more opportunities for just connection, learning. And today's episode will be nothing short of that. We're really excited to have Miss Charlene Free with us, who is just an amazing woman. Her bio is incredible, and I won't read all of it, but certainly when we put the description, we'll have everything here. But we have had the pleasure of getting to know Miss Free over the past several months, and I am just so blown away by your just authentic energy, like your vision. Your you did a workshop for Femergy about a month, maybe 2 months ago now, kind of centered around burnout. And it was just such a eye-opening experience to hear the level of content and how you, to me, I always appreciate bite-sized approach, but it was very good, clear information. And I just really appreciated just your authenticity and how you presented the information. And Miss Charlene Free is an award-winning, prolific, transformational leader. I mean, that's a mouthful in itself, but I really have experienced that. She is often sought out by various groups and organizations as a professional development trainer, keynote speaker, retreat presenter, and moderator, both in Ohio and in other states. She's a leader who has passion for helping other leaders to level up and to excel in life and leadership. And she accomplishes this through her business, Flow of Life, LLC. Charlene has served as a continuing education instructor for 9 years in her field of study. She's authored and taught the curriculum entitled Assessing Apraxia, in speech and swallowing in children and in adults. During that 10 years, she has traveled to and taught in every state in the U.S., with the exception of Alaska and Hawaii. She has spoken in various churches and civic conferences for over 30 years. Miss Charlene, you are incredible, and that's only 2 paragraphs of the bio, because there's just so much more. But you are such an incredible person, and we're just really honored, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I always say that the fact that you're a speaker doesn't mean that anybody has to call you. The fact that you authored a book doesn't mean anybody has to buy your book. And so I'm always grateful when people see the work that I do and see the value in it, experience it, share it with other people. That is just such a blessing to me. And so thank you.
Thank you. Well, I mean, we obviously read a little bit about your bio, but I would love for our listeners and even for us to just learn more about your background and more about your personal and professional journey.
Well, my personal journey started in South Carolina, where I am originally from. And as a little girl, I remember my kindergarten teacher telling me, Charlene, your stories are too long. Write shorter stories. But I couldn't write shorter stories because all of that was in my head, even as young as I was. And so I remember that. And then my great-grandmother, who used to keep us during the day while my parents worked, especially during the summer, or we would go to her house after school, she would say, Charlene, your mouth is just like a bell. You're always saying something, always talking about something. But then as I grew into my teenage years, she would always have me in the plays at the church or doing something with speaking, because she said to me, the Lord is going to use you greatly. And so she would have me talking and just practicing doing things. By the time I got to be a teen, I got tired of it. And I'm like, why do I always have to do it? And that was her answer to me. And then I realized that that was something that needed to be groomed. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that my mother realized the same thing. And so I was given opportunities in my church to do a lot of teaching, even as a teen, teaching adult Bible school. That was something, and I was thinking to myself, I should not be doing this, but I had people that kept telling me, you can do it. You can do this. But then they didn't just tell me, they opened up the opportunity for me to do it, which is what I think that we have to do for people all the time. Don't just tell people they can do it. Open an opportunity for them to actually do it. that makes a difference. And so then going on to college, getting my bachelor's degree in elementary ed, getting my master's degree in speech pathology and audiology. I was always talking, always doing something. And so for years, before I opened my business, Flow of Life LLC, I was doing all kind of speaking things for people for free. And then I realized I need to start getting paid for what I do because what I'm doing, this can be another stream of income for me, but it's having an impact. And so I did start Flow of Life LLC 3 years ago. And my motto is where words flow to life, because I believe that the words that I'm saying to people, whether I'm teaching, moderating, doing a keynote speech, whatever I'm doing, it's going to add something to their lives by the words that they're hearing, or in writing my book, which is available on Amazon, called The Leader's Ship, Navigating and Team Building. If they read it, those are still my words. It's going to flow to life for them. There's a difference between saying something and saying something that matters. There's a difference between saying something just because you're being paid for it and saying something to people that they cannot pay for, because it's going to be that impactful. And so that's what I seek to do whenever I am speaking, whenever I am traveling to speak. I love meeting people and helping leaders to become better and helping people to understand more about leadership, but also more about themselves. I'm constantly trying to become the best version of myself. And I try to encourage other people to do the same.
I love that. And so who or what would you say, who or what motivates you? Like, being on this particular path, just in the journey that you've had professionally, even as an entrepreneur and author, like where does that motivation come from? Or was there a particular moment in your journey that inspired you to want to take this path? And what has that look like for you?
I continue to have the words of my mother and my grandmother floating through my mind. Now, my father is still alive, and he's a great inspiration. Daddy is my greatest cheerleader. But the things that they poured into me about what I could do, what I could be, who I could become. I had another great grandmother that we called Little Mama. And she would always ask my sister and me a pivotal question when we were young, but I didn't understand it then. She said, "Do you know who you are?" Okay, she was always telling us that. So we were just, trying to come up with some kind of answer. But as we got older, that question, "Do you know who you are?" became more and more profound. And I was seeking, okay, Charlene, who are you really? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Who do you want to help in your own life's journey? And so that has been the motivating force for me to continue doing what I am doing. My father, I speak to every day. In fact, he knows I'm here now. And he's always saying, "You can do it, honey. You can do it. I know you can do it. You have been brought up to do this." And so those kinds of things. And then my children, who are also very inspirational, who also know that I'm here. My daughter and her husband are my children. And they always say, "We're so proud of you." When we go places, people are saying your name in the community, that they heard something you said, or they saw something that you did that helped to make them better. And that's what I really want my life's legacy to be, that when I'm no longer doing what I'm doing, or when I'm no longer alive, that my legacy of what I have done and who I have helped will outlive me. Those are the things that I live for.
I love that. So you have since young, a good support system. So when they say life, words give life, right? Speaking life into children and words of affirmation, it's true, because you are an example of when somebody spoke life into you.
Yes.
And they put that, God gave you a gift. And they were so good, they saw the gift.
Yes.
And then they amplify that gift and they nurture that gift. And this is an example of what happens. So for those mothers out there that you have children or nieces, right? If you mentor someone, like sometimes you don't think that what you're doing matters. But today we're seeing an example of what it does. It does when you tell a child they could do it. It does when you tell them they're special, that they have a special gift in them. And when you've recognized the gift, that's not enough. It's also nurturing the gift, right?
Yes.
So I love that.
Providing those opportunities. Now, you touched on something key, because there was a time that I was married and then became divorced when my daughter was 4 years old. She's now 34. And there were a lot of times during my single parenthood, which I never planned to be a single parent at all, but it happened, where I was wondering, am I doing it right? Am I doing enough? Am I providing enough wholeness for her to be able to be whole? I don't want her life to be fractured because of what has happened to me. I don't want her to be any less than what I know she can be. And I'm grateful that a lot of what we experienced actually made her stronger. And there were some things, especially those teenage years, they turn into somebody else.
Right.
And they turn into somebody else. And things that she thought at that time were so hard. And why couldn't she do what some other people were doing? And why couldn't she go where some other people were going? I remember one day she asked me if she could go to the mall. I said, no. She said, why not? I said, you don't have any money for the mall? And what are you going in there for? Right. I said, I don't want you to learn to be a hangout young lady. Right. You're going to be somebody's wife. You're going to be somebody's mother. If you start that hangout mentality now, I said, and nothing is there but trouble when you don't have any money to go to the mall. Right. And you're talking about going with your teenage friends. The other thing is, they would be driving. I said, I know you'll be talking about boys and listening to the music and not paying attention to the road. No, you can't go. Yeah. Now, I did let her do certain things, but certain things I would say no. And of course, she thought that was so harsh, but I cannot tell you how many times she's come back and thanked me. Yeah. That's how you know. You don't know as you're doing it as a single mother or dad or grandparent or whatever. You don't know whether you're doing it right or not. But the mark is what they become. Right. And then when they come back from being out there in college in another state, my daughter went to college in Indiana and all of that, and they come back and they say, I'm so glad you didn't let me do this or say that or go that way, or you had a standard and I had to live by it. I didn't want to, but I had to. I'm glad. Yeah. That all makes a difference.
It does. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think, part of what I'm also hearing you describe is the village.
Yes.
And I think, we have had other conversations in previous episodes. If the village is gone, and then we're seeing just a generation of people, whether you're a single parent or you're being raised by a grandparent, or even if you're married, feeling like you don't have like that level of support. You've mentioned your mother, your grandmother, your father, like just all these influential people that for the most part are all part of your family and that internal kind of fabric of a village. And
yes.
So I would love your thoughts in terms of if you feel like the village is still as strong today as it has been, and what folks can do if they're feeling like they don't have that village to be able to provide just, some kind of understanding as to what can we be doing to build that village, not only for ourselves, but if we have children, being able to have, the same opportunities or experiences you had growing up.
I think the village is getting smaller. And I think a part of that is that people don't have the time now that they used to have. Yeah, I'm 57 years old. I'll be 58 on January 1st. People had a lot more time at that time to pour into. The world wasn't moving as fast. There wasn't as much going on. But now there's a whole lot. and people are having to navigate things they've never had to navigate before. You know, a lot of federal workers have lost their jobs, and a lot of people are navigating waters that they're not used to. They are had their jobs taken away because it was under DEI or whatever. And so people, it's not that I think some people don't want to be a part of the village. They don't have the time to really pour in and to be a part of somebody else's village because they're in survival mode.
Right.
When we think or see that the village is as small as it is, and then some people don't realize the importance of it. You know, we have all these generations now that have different names, Gen Z, Gen X, and all of that, the millennials. We didn't have all those names, but we still had people in those categories. Sometimes people don't see the importance of it. And those of us that know, it is incumbent upon us to teach it to the generation coming behind. Our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, just being there for someone. And it's not about quantity as much as quality. Pour something into somebody's life, even if you don't have a lot of time. Find one or two people that you can be that example to, that you can help to go farther on their journey. My village is remarkable because my great-grandmother didn't really have a village. Her mother passed away when she was 3 days old. And so she was brought up by her older sister and her dad. But her dad was gone to work a whole lot. Her sister had a whole lot of children and a husband. And so my great-grandmother had to learn to go and pick cotton in South Carolina. She didn't have people to be there and to do all of the things that she did for us. My father was an abused and neglected child. My mother was an abused child. That's how she was brought up by my great-grandmother. So they didn't have what they gave us. So for people that don't have that, it boils down to what my great-grandmother, my father, and my mother had to do. Make a decision. Make a decision to give someone else what you don't have. Make a decision to be what you were not given. They did that. And not one day of abuse did my sister and I ever suffer because they made the decision to be different. They made the decision to give us what they did not have. So all we knew was that until we learned the stories of their lives. But that gave us, what we needed for our children. So just try to be there. None of us can be the whole village for anybody. But try to be that one component that you can be for someone. Maybe you can't reach 10 people, but can you reach one or two? To be a part of that person's village. You never know where people are at a certain time and how your being there can be a lifeline for them.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think as a single mom, also not by a choice. I mean, I made the choice, but not what I wanted.
Yes.
Right? I've been thinking a lot about the village, right? Like I'm grateful. I have great friends and support. But at times, I feel like it was my responsibility to carry it all because I made the choice, right, to be the mom. And then I made the choices to be single, right, to avoid toxic stuff. But now I have to just push through. And it's hard when you're in that situation, right? Because you're not helping anybody with that. I wanted my child to be in a loving environment. I wanted him to be born with less trauma than what I was brought into the world. And those decisions, right, cost now for me to be and in this space. And as I hear you speak about the village, it does continue to encourage me to continue to seek that village and ask for help. And I have heard it a couple of times last week, right, from people no, people want to babysit your son. Talk to them if you need to go to an event and you need somebody to watch him, right? Sometimes you're so preoccupied of how I'm going to get this done that you're not thinking outside the box because you're just looking at this little thing. And it's helpful when other people suggest that you do or they offer to help.
Yes.
So I do appreciate it. Hopefully if you are listening to this and you're no, I have to do it on my own, you don't. And I know for those of us that are for me as an immigrant, you just have to figure it out. there are people that are there to help, right? And when they can, they will. And just asking, sometimes ahead of time, if you know you have a couple events, asking them ahead of time, I think is key. And that's where I am. I'm moving more into like, okay, who is in my village? Evaluating my environment. Who is here? Mm-hmm. Who can I reach out to? Who can support? Because I do want my son to grow up and be like, I grew up in a village.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because I grew up in Dominican where my grandmother was there, my aunts were there. My mom came to this country, and for a few months I was with my aunt. You know, she was the one that was taking care of us. So there was a village where I grew up. Coming here, we didn't have that many family members, so the village got really small.
Yes.
Almost like none. So now I'm in a position, I would like to say that I get to choose the village for my son, and that's empowering, right?
Yes.
So thank you
and
for that reminder.
And that's wise too, to know that you get to choose it. But do choose it, because if you keep telling people no every time they offer to do something, after a while the offers will dry up.
Yeah.
And there are things that you could be doing. If, like you said, maybe going to an event or something, that doesn't mean you're a bad mom. It means you're human and you're getting out and you're feeding that part of your soulish realm that needs to be fed. The other thing is, children pattern their parenting after us. So if that's all he sees you doing, he may get in his mind, well, if I don't do it all, I'm not a good parent. So even allowing him to experience some things with some other people that you trust, it's good for you and it's good for him.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
And I think it's so much, we put so much pressure on ourselves. And I've heard you speak about this before, just taking time to do that self-inventory. Mm-hmm. And in the workshop you did for us around burnout, you very directly asked the question as to, how folks can evaluate toxic work environments. But really, it starts with you. Are you creating the toxic work environment? And so I think it's also when we think about parenting or when we think about how we show up in spaces, really wanting to be intentional about pausing to say, okay, what am I contributing to this environment in my household, in my job? Because I think that, growing up, as we've talked about here a little bit today, I just remember, just this anxiety when, you would hear certain cars in the driveway. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, in reflection now, I have such gratitude for my mom. But in the moment, it was a different feeling, not understanding why she was walking in the house so upset and feeling like, did we clean enough? Did we do what we were supposed to do before she got here? And now as a full-blown adult and recognizing my mom was a single mom. My mom was working. My mom couldn't be the nurturing elements of motherhood every single day because she also had to play the role of being my dad. Mm-hmm. She had to go out. She had to provide. She was working multiple jobs. And so I think oftentimes, to your point, like we pick up certain traits, not recognizing that we've adopted them because of what we've experienced and what we've gone through in childhood. But if we're not taking the time to pause and say, why do I do certain things? Am I the problem? Am I creating a toxic environment? Are my kids stressed when I pull up? Which I think they're a little stressed when I pulled up. Not to the level. I know for a fact.
Not to the same level.
I have an awareness. I'm not completely in denial.
You're a great mom.
But when I walk in, I think I know it's not at the same level because they're just kind of floating around the house, and I'm just like, you didn't see the kitchen is still the way I left it. So it tells me a little bit of just. It's not as bad, but I recognize that I also still bring a certain energy with me when I come in the house, especially if I've had like a hard day. Mm-hmm. I don't have much capacity left to deal with the realities of my personal life.
Yes.
And so what are your thoughts, or how can we continue to dig a little deeper as we are growing humans every single day? It's not perfect, or, whether you had a perfect childhood or not, or what you may define as perfect, because we all have different definitions of what that is. We should be growing every single day. So what can you talk to us a little bit more about like that self-discovery piece of how we can continue to be intentional as we are just trying to really ideally do the best that we can?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, when I tell you this, when I tell you what I'm about to tell you, it's amazing that you brought that up. We cannot do everything. Mm-hmm. We as women are notorious for that. work on this job and do this and that, and I can go home and have a spotless house, and I can do this with the children, and I can do this with my husband, and I can do this for myself. And then the reality is, I only got about 25 or 30% of that done. Yeah. Then we start to feel bad. You're right. We do have a certain energy that we bring. And I think that everybody needs a cool down period before they go home, whether it's on the drive home, just taking some time to clear your mind. You might even have to turn everything off. For some people, they need to turn everything off and just listen to the silence. Some people need to listen to some relaxing music or listen to a book, maybe someone reading poetry, something like that. But knowing, okay, when I go in this house, I still need to take a minute. I'm going to say hello to everybody, but I'm going to go to my room and take a minute just to woosah, just to get myself together so that when I go back out there, I am my best self. But I'm having, and I know a lot of people, by the time you see this will be after the holidays, but there are people who are stressing about the holidays because the Christmas dinner is going to be at their house. Mm-hmm. I am doing the Christmas.
It's at my house this year.
I'm doing the Christmas dinner at my house. I always do Christmas at my house. And although I only have like 4 people coming over, but I do a huge dinner and I do all of the cooking. Well, there's someone coming this year who's a new person that has never been there before. That is actually one of my sorority sisters that my daughter wanted to invite. She's not going to make it home out of state for Christmas, and she knows how I hate to have people that we know be alone at Christmas. So she asked if she could come. But there are things in my house that are not done. I don't even have my 2 trees up yet. I normally would have them up, okay? And I don't know if both of them will make it up this year or not, but we'll see. And I was thinking over the weekend, because that's another thing. I spoke out of state unexpectedly this weekend, so then I flew back in right before the storm. I'm grateful for that, but all of that was time, that I would have used for that. So I found myself doing this stir-crazy thing in my mind. And this is not done, and that is not done. How is this going to be? And am I going to get to? I don't know how that. And then I said to myself, stop. Mm-hmm. Just stop. Whatever is done is going to be done. Mm-hmm. Whatever is not done is not going to be done. That's not the main thing. The main thing is for everybody to come, have a good time, laugh and talk, eat some good food. Mm-hmm. We'll share some gifts. We'll share family love, and that's it. And the other thing I thought about was this. Now, some of the things that I need to do, they're not going to get done, but they're only going to be at my house for 3 to 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So what? Yeah. So I turned myself, I created a toxic environment in my own house and in my own mind, because I was going stir crazy about what I think other people will expect. Mm-hmm. So sometimes our own expectations of ourselves and what we think other people will expect will cause us to miss out on meaningful moments. And we create our own toxic environment.
Right. This is your house.
Yeah. Yes.
So if somebody that knows that you have 2 trees only sees one, you're like, yeah, I only put one up today.
Yes.
Welcome. You want a glass of water?
Right. That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Which it sounds to me like you're also talking about just being able to have gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude, the fact that you have a house that people can pull up to.
Yes.
Gratitude that you'll be able to feed these people on Christmas. Gratitude that you have people to share the holidays with. And I think you've hit on something so important. It's just that we get so caught up in stress that we maybe, we put that on our own shoulders, that we need to spend more time really just being in gratitude about the opportunity just to have fellowship.
Yes.
And I would love, I know we're already almost at the tail end of this episode. I feel like I could talk to you for days. We're going to have to have you back.
I could talk to both of you for days.
I'm like, we have to bring you back next year for sure. But just, as folks are listening, and I think, we've talked about this in some past episodes, it's just, there's been this level of heaviness you know, and it could be and sometimes holidays are heavy for people.
Yes.
And then, you know, oftentimes you just see everybody's all excited, but for many people, they're grieving.
Yes.
They are feeling lost, whether it's, you know, they lost their job, they may have lost a loved one, things just might, you know, they may have a sick family member. And so we automatically assume that holidays are this, you know, beautiful, joyful time for folks. And so I want to be mindful of that. You know, it's not beautiful for everyone.
It's not.
And so, you know, how even in a season of uncertainty, a season of what could be considered as heaviness, how can we continue to find joy, find gratitude in the moments, even when we don't have true clarity about next steps or where we're even heading, but wanting to be mindful of, I'm alive today, one day at a time, one bite at a time.
Yes. Finding the joy in the little things. I make it a habit when I get into bed at night before I go to sleep to purposefully think of 3 things that I can be grateful for. Even if I've had a bad day, I've learned to say, but God, I'm thankful that it wasn't worse. Mm-hmm. That's a way of showing gratitude. As you said, just the fact that we're still here, being able to, one of the things I've learned, because I work in healthcare and I know how things can happen so quickly, being grateful that I can do what I did before I went to sleep when I wake up, because everybody does not wake up that way. For those that are grieving, for those that are hurt, for those that feel lost, we're not minimizing that, but just trying to find something positive that happened this year, even if it's one thing, somebody that you met, a place that you got to go, a new food that you had a chance to try, something that you were able to see, a new book that you read and were able to complete or learn something from. None of us knows what is ahead of us, but I do want to encourage everyone to let go of every negative thing, every negative person, every negative happening from 2025. 2025 is almost over. 2026 is right around the corner, and by the time people hear this, 2026 will be here. Yeah. So start looking at what you want your year to look like, what you hope it will look like, but be okay with the fact that if you don't get every single thing on your checklist done, or if you don't accomplish every single thing that's on your checklist, be happy with the one. It doesn't have to be 4 or 5. One is an accomplishment. And that's so important to remember, knowing that we can't go back to 2025. We can't undo a lot of things that are outside of our control. We must become masters of controlling what we can and letting go of what we cannot. And I know that sometimes that's easier said than done.
Well, we thank you so much, Ms. Charlene Free, for being here. And, you know, I feel blessed to have had this interview and conversation with you. And before we wrap, is there anything you want to share with our listeners, or anything that you really feel, called to share before we wrap our time with you today?
Wherever you find yourself, whatever you're in, whatever the place is that you're standing, know that sometimes it takes more strength to stand still than to take a step. Because you need to get your bearing where you are first so that you have the stability to take that step. Maybe you can't take a step like your neighbor or your sister or your brother who may have taken some big steps this year. Get your grounding, get your standing, and just stand, so that when the opportunity presents itself for you to move forward, you will have enough emotional and mental stability to be able to take that step, and know that whatever you can do, whatever you need to navigate, you can do it. The power to do it exists inside of you, but you have to believe that and surround yourself with other people who are going to help to cultivate that seed of belief.
Amen.
I love that. Well, we received that. Yes, get your bearings. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing that. In every episode of True Print for Life, we always like to end with our own mantra that it's bigger than you.
Yes.
So we'll count us off and we'll end there.
1, 2, 3.
It's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.